welcome to this special broadcast on ET Now with me, Taneia Bhardwaj. Well, every year we bring you the family budget where we get you a sneak peek of what it is that the urban middle class wants from the finance minister and his A-team. Well, this time the stakes are high because remember, it's also going to be the last budget for the Prime Minister and his team before the Lok Sabha election. So joining me today to walk us through what the household expectation is Pallavi and Saurabh. Guys, thanks so much for taking the time out for us. You know, let me set the context for this discussion. Like I said, it's a high stake budget for the government because it's going to be perhaps their last chance to try and woo voters like you ahead of that mega Lok Sabha election. It's been nearly 4.5 years for this government. They were voted in on the plank that they're going to usher in the Achhe Din. Let me first ask you, are we living in Achhe Din?
I would say there are things that have improved. Digitally, people have started paying, transacting digitally. A lot of money which was going outside our country with Visa and MasterCard. Now we have RuPay, we have UPI. Those transactions are now, not going out. And with demonetization, a lot of people might disagree that, people want money in their, accounts, which did not happen, of course, which was never probably the plan was. But people started using, now we pay our vegetable vendor with Paytm or he has some kind of digital payment. So actually that income is now accounted for. So I think, yeah, in certain ways, yes, a lot of development has happened. With Aadhaar, things have become easier to apply for. Probably you're going for a gas connection or paying your bills. These things have become easier.
Passport for our child. I mean, we got a for my 11th month-old baby, we got a passport in 24 hours. I think we were very impressed with the service because it was so fast. Within like 40 minutes, that whole process of applying. I mean, we did everything online, but going through that office process in Andheri East, it was a smooth thing for us. And next day, we got the passport.
So if I hear you right, you're saying that yes, things have definitely improved.
Yes, administration-wise, yes.
Okay.
Government is more responsive. You can reach out to them. Of course, you can see our, Sushma Swaraji. She has been doing wonderful work. So yeah, those things have improved, and that's what. There will be negatives, of course, but you can only do that much, in certain number of years. And
so our verdict is we definitely want to give this government another chance. I guess they've sown the seeds now, and now the fruits will start reaping in the next 5 years.
So let's talk about, the room for improvement. And, oftentimes when I chat with folks like you or even me, right, the salaried middle class, so to speak, what they often say is that, every government uses the middle class as its favorite whipping boy, right? Because we are always at the receiving end. It's we who get the short end of the stick. Now that you've got the union budget upon us, what do you think the government can do to put more money in the hands of folks like you?
I would say certain slabs of GST are a bit higher, when we purchased the house and there were a lot of payments we made, so 18% over and above on a lot of things which are like not even luxury. So you end up paying, I think those slabs should come down. GST is good. It's a learning curve which people are finding it difficult to deal with. But eventually people will feel comfortable having just learning one GST, how to pay.
Also, there's a massive difference in, the projects which are, I mean, this was again basis our experience we learned while we were scouting for a project in real estate, that any kind of projects which are under construction and something which is made here. We bought this house because from a first owner, but if you're buying it from a builder, you end up paying almost 30 to 40 lakhs amount of GST on a flat worth 2 crores, which is a hefty amount for us to shell out, and this is no bank is going to give us loan for this. So this is over and above the amount which I'm anyway supposed to pay. So if bank is giving me 80%, I have to manage the 20% plus 40 lakhs. That's a huge amount for me to manage.
Do you think that, there are enough enablers for folks like you who admittedly have also seen an increase in your salaries, every year? Are there enough enablers by the government to, incentivize saving?
I personally see probably a lot of FDs and RDs not giving us great returns. I am probably the person who's doing the investment for both of us.
I don't
managing the money.
I find it too cumbersome.
So I believe in a lot of equity market, and in the last 4-5 years, whatever, we've been together, we've invested more there, not too much in government policy. But yes, PPF is a standard thing which we all follow.
Yeah.
When January comes, we all are like pumping
It's
in money
easy,
there.
you just put in. So I think there are some investment where, for active investors, you're seeking, oh, after 3 months, I should check how much return. I'm not that kind of investor. I just want to put my money and just forget about it, because I consider I will not need it, like at least in very near future. So I like, easy things which are giving me constant return, like PPF. I was comfortable because it's easy right now for me to invest. I would want it easier to pull my money out also. So
Yeah.
I think that's where government needs to work. Wherever government is enabling some policy, like I used to buy national saving certificates. It was a nightmare to actually cash in after 6 years. So those kind of things should become easier.
Well, when it comes to these mutual funds and other investment options that we have, the non-instrumental options, I think it's much easier to transact and get better returns as well. I mean, if a standard is 8 to 10% that we usually get in terms of returns, I don't know what's the last year has been for us, but when we were actually buying this house, and we had to manage some kind of savings that we had.
Yeah.
So when we were getting, I think we made good money on few large cap funds, and we had very limited options in terms of where we had invested in government policies, because there was just 6-7% of return. So I think there has to be some more opportunities for people like us, or for middle class, I would say.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was the 10% quota for the economically weaker. Something that, the government says will bring economic parity and also help with social upliftment. What do you guys think about it?
From the pure development point of view, I think in general category also there are people who are underprivileged economically. It might help them. So, but I feel the reservation should completely go off. You cannot keep on repeating your past mistakes. If something happened to some, sector, society, we are now giving them reservation, then general category will demand more reservation in future. It can't go on. So I think this might be, elections are coming. It might be pleasing the people. One policy, of course, could be that, and suddenly development will or will not happen. We have to see. But yeah, I feel now it's a level playing field. Everybody has bit of reservation for their economy, because in every caste or religion, you say there are people who are not doing that well economically. So it might just help. Yet to see.
What worries you? What worries you about the future?
It's not the financial thing that much, but I think the quality of living, especially in a city like Bombay, we both are associated with media. We have to be here, and living in Bombay is not easy because the infrastructure, the quality of roads, even the air quality in most of our cities, though. So the thing that we worry about is for our son, when he grows up, what kind of things he will have. Will he have grounds to play? I don't see people playing, in a ground. I grew up in a small town. We used to play cricket, and there were so many grounds to choose from. Here, I don't see any ground at all. So I think those are the things worry me the most. I think that is also should be part of the development, not just earning high and spending and buying cars and houses.
Also, the stress levels are very high in a city like Bombay. So I think I mean, it's totally to individuals of what kind of stress we all takes, but even the travel that we do every day from work, and I am into sales and I'm on the field most of the times. So going to Lower Parel, or even I'm traveling to town, it takes almost 1.5 to 2 hours, which is very normal. Like it comes very and I belong to a city called Meerut, which is in UP.
Yes.
And UP to Delhi is 90 kilometers. We
Yeah.
cover that distance in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So itne time mein aap Delhi pahunch jaoge.
Yeah.
Meerut se. So I think that way is the stress levels, as I said, is very high. When it comes to individual lives, I would not want my son to actually live the similar life. We want to leave him enough with that he can choose his passion and live accordingly. So and obviously there has to be enough opportunities for the coming generation to actually ponder upon and decide.
In the run up to the budget, if you could make your voice sort of heard, what are maybe the 2 or 3 things that you think the government must absolutely address?
Firstly, I guess this would be an interim budget, because the government is might change in the coming elections. So there might not be huge policy changes, is what I feel. But yeah, if they need to address something, I think the farmer's plight is the topmost thing. We cannot, we are comfortable at our home, but somebody who's growing food, I think nobody will get food if farmers stop growing it. I think their problems should be addressed. Coming to the tax thing, I think it's comfortable. It's not that stringent a tax in India yet, but we can see probably the lowest slab might move a bit from 2.5 to 3.5 maybe. That's my guess, to make the lower income group more comfortable.
Okay, I would want to see probably more opportunities for the youth, and especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities. If we are in Bombay, we still happen to find these opportunities. I think it's still, there has to be a lot of options for youth, and because otherwise that's why we hear so many unnecessary fights, and there are scandals where people end up killing each other in small towns. These kind of small curfews are happening. I don't know about Kashmir, and still there are people who come up from there and look for opportunities in Bombay or Delhi. Why have to come all the way here? I think we should have enough of options in these cities as well. That, I mean, and especially in tier 2 cities, I know that for women specifically, my mother, she's a teacher with army school, and for her, the only option when she grew up, when she was being educated at Delhi University, the first thing she thought was that I want to be a teacher because that's the safest option. It's viable for a woman to work safely in a very safe environment, and that's how our families used to probably teach them that sector, or maybe banking, is one of the safest options for women. So I would want to see something more done, for women specifically, and especially these sectors which are not economically doing so well. So maybe create some more options for them who are educated women, and probably accept teaching and banking. Where else can they probably fend some more options for feeding their families?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and welcoming us into your home. Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome back. You're watching The Family Budget on ET Now with me, Taneia Bhardwaj. As always, in the run-up to the budget, we sit down with families in their living room to get a sense of what their expectations are from the budget this time round. Well, joining me in the second half of this show is the Ramnathan family. Thank you so much for taking the time out, Rohini and Mrs. Ramnathan. Let me begin by asking you, before anything else, this is a government that came to power on the plank of Achhe Din. 4.5 years on, how good are the times you're living in, would you say?
Yeah, Mom. They're good, right?
Definitely they are good. We have to begin on a very positive note, and अच्छे दिन तो है, लेकिन इतना थोड़ा ढूंढना पड़ता है. मुझे वही लगा कि ऐसे लिविंग रूम में हमारे साथ नहीं बैठे हैं अच्छे दिन. उसके बाहर शायद बालकनी में जाके रास्ते में आ रहा है क्या, ट्रैफिक में अटका हुआ है, ऐसे ढूंढना पड़ता है शायद.
Well, I think that as long as it's not bure din, yeah, that's I'm the eternal optimist.
Yeah.
It is Achhe Din, because God knows what else is in store for us. Because I remember that night, demonetization, where I was standing. That was the day I actually questioned Achhe Din, because I said, how can it be Achhe Din if I'm standing in a ATM line, fearful whether or not I can get my own money out. Of course, we know how demonetization went down, and there have been lots of changes. So I think, don't you think, Taneia, that the government has kept us busy? And it's not given us a time to actually ask this question. So I'm very glad.
But let me be the devil's advocate. Don't you think you're also being a little harsh? Because come on, the last 4.5 years, do we really have to struggle to talk about how our lives have improved for the better?
Of course. I mean, we worked hard, and our lives deserve to improve for the better. Yes. Technology is a worldwide phenomenon. Yeah. It's not just an Indian thing.
Yes.
I think overall, of course, we are in these sort of cutting edge times. So thank God. And mostly what is keeping the rest of the world busy or not happy is bigger concerns, like, for example, war, or like natural disasters or calamities or famine. And touch wood, that way I think India, we've not seen something except the Kerala floods, of course, which were devastating. I think overall, yes, we are an economy that's set to just soar.
This is also going to be, at least this government, the Modi Sarkar's sort of last attempt to be able to woo you. Keeping that in mind, do you think we're going to see a populist budget this time? And what are your own expectations? Or rather, I should say, what would you like to see the government do?
Well, I think that definitely it's going to be like the trailer of Thugs of Hindustan. This time is budget. Because, I mean, there's going to be lots of pomp and show and there's going to be a lot of promises made. What do I want personally from the budget? I wish that we cared a little bit more about the budget as these sort of upwardly mobile, like working in these sort of, tier 1 cities, across, India and staying in Mumbai, which is, the hub of media. I just think that we're a little divorced from, like I haven't yet come to a space where I'm like, oh my God, this budget is really going to scare me this time. I've not felt that in a while, and I feel that that's a problem, or maybe not. Like thank God. But I hope that it's going to be more friendly for women who are, who are single women who are making a living in this city and who are also aspiring to do things that usually families do, like for example buy a house or be a home buyer. It's not easy. You're not getting any breaks as a single girl trying to make that living. There are more girls who are taking care of their parents now. There are more women who are running families, and I don't know why we are not considering that at all in our chat when it comes to what breaks are we going to give these people.
Mrs. Ramnath, let me ask you, with somebody who has far more years under your belt, what are your expectations?
The tax limit, in my opinion, has to definitely move ahead from that figure of 2.5 lakhs. It should just double up to 5 lakhs directly, because all these years there hasn't really been any relief. Secondly, the cost of many medicines and all these things, we are still paying the same amount of money. Now, coming from the insurance point of view, because I belong to that sector, I feel that the pure term plan and a health plan which a person is buying, when I pitch the talk to that person, as it is, he knows very well that the money is not going to come back in any form. Over and above that, he has to pay a big slice of 18% for as the GST, which I think is really very unfair. Anybody above 50 years of age can be given much more relief as far as outgoing of money is concerned from my pocket.
Since both of you mentioned GST, I want to dwell a little bit on that. Yes. It was perceived and seen as this one nation, one tax. Yes. Of course, it's doing that. But how has the onboarding been for, families like yourselves or, freelance professionals like yourself, Rohini? Has it been easy?
I mean, I remember that, doing taxes before the GST came in was its own nightmare. Because there were so many things that we didn't even know that iska bhi tax bharna. And it used to constantly be this thing that, like, and I've had the experience of not living in India for a few years. I've lived in Singapore where the concept of GST, I've experienced it, even as an expat, you have to pay GST. So I thought, wow, this is a welcome change, because that means you're centralizing your tax. That means all of us need to just pay one tax, right? But that was, and I always feel this about the last budget, or like the 4.5 years ago budget, that every time they gave you something, what you didn't keep an eye on is what they took away from you. So there was GST, but they also added 3% to what the existing tax was. Yeah. So it went from 15% to 18%, and that is on all sort of goods and services. Plus you have to file it now every month. Like, to me, that's a big pain point, because for people who are maintaining, or you want to make it easy, you as much as you can, because you want to encourage people to pay their taxes, and we are a tax paying nation. I mean largely, at least, Yeah. I mean, I don't belong to that sort of set of people who evade taxes. I mean, I need to get smarter than that's about it. But when you're doing that, you're just paying so much, and you're spending so much time doing it. So can we hopefully see that we do it in like every 3 months or something, perhaps? So
I want to ask you, and I'm curious to know how the adaptation towards this entire digitization thrust that we've seen in the country, especially in the last 15-16 months, what's that been like for you? Have you been able to adapt to it easily? Do you really bother about it, or is it something that's sort of outside your worldview?
Yes, it's definitely a very fancy word, digitalization. And when your daughter gives you a smartphone, there is no other choice but to learn to use it. Yeah. She doesn't give it with the instruction manual. So automatically you are into the stream of learning and getting it right every time you operate it. So I'm very comfortable, luckily, with net banking, using my cards, all these aspects with my phone. And like, it's just the power in my hands. now with the mobile transactions and the banking in my phone app. Now that it is an advantage and the government is also seeing that many people are adapting to it, I wish they would give us some more incentives, because we are using all these things. It would make more people as good users.
You know, off late, what's grabbing the headlines is how India is going to continue to be the fastest growing economy. So whereas, you know, you have parts of the world where there are these recessionary worries,
Yes.
we are, you know, well on our way to have the fastest growing economy tag. Just from your point of view, right? Does that make any difference to your lives? Has that in any way changed your lives?
Yeah, I remember I was a recession baby, which means that I got my first job when it was 2008. And that was a very landmark year because across the sectors things were going really badly. And you know, to get a job during a recession, so I'll always think of my luck as being like a little crazy. Like even the last 5 years, I think that, you know, India has done, you know, phenomenally well. But I also think that, you know, we're so quick to attribute like success to usually governments. And I think that we should take a step back and be a little more objective about this, because all across the world there is, the technology has improved, the internet has come in, everybody is digital. So you know, to attribute the digitalization of India to a government would be a little far-fetched, you know. Of course the only question was who was going to make money on the digitalization, and that's basically what happened. But in terms of, there are better jobs on offer right now, okay, at least from the media point of view. In the last 3 years, I think the biggest players across the world have come and set shop in India, and I'm sure that there has to be ease of business is one of the top reasons for that.
What do you worry about going into the future, right? I mean, when you have conversations with your friends, family, neighbors, what's the sense that you get? What is a typical Indian, a salaried Indian in a big metro? You know, what are the trials and tribulations when you think about your future from a sentiment point of view? What worries you?
The expense on healthcare, definitely.
Okay.
Yes. I think the government can contribute in a very big way by giving some medical benefits or some insurance cover to anyone above 45 or 50. Because now we see that heart attacks are happening at younger ages. It's no more the 60 plus. It is this stressful age of trying to be what I want to achieve in my life, and that age is between 32 to 45 now. These are the section of people, the youth of our country, who are really going through a lot of battering as far as their own health versus keeping up with their own goals at office, career, whatever it is.
Rohini, you?
Work-life balance. I think it's something that I repeatedly talk about on the radio as well, that, you know, as a country, or especially because I think it's the Bombay effect, that, you know, there is no time to rest. And, you know, we have to stay and longer hours because we have to do more for whatever little is, you know, that's being offered to you. If you won't do it, somebody else will. And I think that overall, just, it's such an unhealthy economy, because what are we getting in return? Like, you know, and the budget needs to go beyond just money, because we need to budget for, you know, ill health, for the man hours that are wasted traveling. You know, there's a budget that needs to go beyond the chat of just how many tax breaks are we getting, to actually being a little more fulfilling and looking at society as a holistic point of view. Like, I also think that when we talk about the budget, like sitting, as you know, as you started off saying, in our living rooms, and it's fun and it's great, but you know what tends to happen is that the reality is that as city dwellers, as these Bombay people, I think we're very divorced from what the budget means for the entire nation. Like over the last 1 year, we've seen not one but 2 Kisan Morchas coming into the city, and I go to work at 6 in the morning, and that's where I've seen them take over an entire flyover, sit there, and that's when you realize that there is a huge problem, you know, where there is something that's just not reaching somebody who lives 3 hours away from you. It's not water, it's not human resources, like nothing. So I think that to me was the biggest sort of concern. So it's 2 things. If you're living in the city, then how are you living in the city? And if you're not living in the city, again, how are you living, you know, in that space? Are we being taken care of? So that is my bigger worry.
Okay, great. Great chatting with both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.